If I was not able to talk, or if all the opponents of me in the world, if they cannot talk, how will they tell me any problem? How can they injure me by language? Whatever action, I don't think anybody can feel so much emotional, right? Whatever actions, by what action you can somebody can induce serious emotions in you? Nothing. But a single dialogue, and all the problems in the world are by this kind of discordant or dissonance in dialogues only between nations included. Anyway, that is the condition. There is no point in understanding that. Because with a great lot of effort, for example, I have explained the entire phenomenon as much as possible, both to Mandra and Amaya. But it has not worked. It little bit reduced, but still I can see. So criticism means, for example, they interpret it as that there is an element of dislike. No? So why dislike? Somebody's dislike is affecting you so much. Who is that somebody? Some unknown person. Which way it matters whether he dislikes or likes. So you also try to do some research on this. In which way language is controlling the somebody else's language is remote controlling the you. I mean my mind or somebody else's mind. Why in the liquor shops in Kerala it is written, do not discuss politics? Because if politics is discussed, there is a very likelihood of some kind of a commotion, some kind of a ruckus, or sometimes even a murder. And where is that? How this language is translated into various perceptions and cognitions and sensitivities and experiences in us. No? You read a poem, you read a novel, you read a document of certain sensitive contents, and you feel why. That feeling is definitely the result of some kind of a rigorous training program, evidenced by the fact that the same kind of dialogue in similar situations do not induce that much of feeling in certain people.
It's 20
In
hours.
some other people, there is very serious feeling, and in some other people, there is a midway, little bit serious, but okay, etc., etc. In the Western culture, there is the habit of saying thank you. You do something and the other person expresses thank you, and you feel really good about it. Or you tell some unnecessary dialogues which affects a person, and then you just tell him sorry. Instantly, that feeling of whatever is vanished. Or when in the Indian Penal Code accepts the concept of what you call publicly uh, saying sorry. I don't know what is the English word for that. മാപ്പ് കൊടുക്കുക കോടതി മാപ്പ് കൊടുക്കും. What is the English word? I don't know. You know, Meenakshi, you know?
Is it pa-
Yeah,
is it
you're right.
pardon?
It's pardon.
Oh, pardon.
Pardon?
That's all. That's all.
Mm.
That's all, huh? Okay. Pardonable offense. Yeah, right. Okay. And how clever salespeople manipulate, so-called manipulate the mind of a person so that he buys something without his internal agreement. That power of language. I have been fooled 2 times by the managers of the HDFC bank in Trichy Road. Suddenly they have come all the way from, see, that is connected with event also. Suddenly I see two managers of HDFC branch, Trichy Road branch in Coimbatore, in the front of my house. So I asked them, why are you here? Oh, we have come to see you. How did you come? We came by the car all the way from Coimbatore to see you. Actually, it was a lie. They saw some other potential customers also. And they were here, they got introduced to Ameya, Mantra, they talked a lot of things. They were sitting like that for almost 1.5 hours. And finally, they said that we should join some what you call Tata, AIA, some what you call some insurance policy. I am absolutely dead against that. Not only dead against, I do not have the money to pay the installments. I just had no idea how I would pay the future installments. Of course, I am not telling that it is the power of language. It also involves the weakness of me also. Because I became so concerned about coming all the way from Coimbatore, talking all kinds of things, establishing a relationship. They asked about what I'm doing. They appreciated the book. They wanted a copy of the book, which I gave them. You know, at every point I knew that they are about to do something. So despite that, finally they got the form signed and they left. So I'm just talking about examples of language. And you know the funeral orations of Mark Antony. How come this effect for language? Into this, close our eyes and look at this body. Look at that naked creature of this planet Earth, like a cat or a chimpanzee or a monkey or a lion, whatever. It's an organism of this planet Earth. How that organism is controlled by language, by just some sound structures. Can we not escape from this? We talk about great detachment. There are so many occasions where even the so-called mystics got very angry by the questioning or confrontation by somebody else by language. Is it like a weapon that pinches your body? Nothing. So I have tried my best, let me tell you, to locate at what junction in this so-called inside of the me, where language is converted into autonomic reactions of depression or sadness or anxiety or jealousy or worry or something like that. on one hand, and on the other hand, how certain vague autonomic disturbances in the body, or some disturbance in the chest region or the abdomen region, some vague stupid location in the body is converted into language and talked to other people, converted into language to be delivered to other people. Where is that hell happening? What is the finality of that? What is so concrete about that? It is important when we consider this emotional disturbance. Now, two. And the third aspect, how, above all, what is the most dangerous aspect, can anyone say? This language, emotion, language, mind connectivity, what is more dangerous? Can you say? Which one?
So the question was, which is more dangerous, language or mind? Is it?
No. Someone tells you some so-called language which intimidates you and you feel, okay, sad or depressed or irritated or offended or angry or sad or whatever, okay? One. That is one point number one. I said, how that someone else's language, just words and sentences, you heard that, and how it is getting translated into emotions. Okay. Point number two, how something in your body, which you call as emotions of depression or anger or sadness or disappointment or frustration, is translated into language which you give to other people, which you talk to somebody else. These two dimensions I mentioned. Then I asked the question, and I said how it is happening and why lives are all spoiled by languages. Life is spoiled, you look at it. The entire beauty and wonder and equilibrium of life is spoiled only by the interference of language. This is my discovery. I have not seen anybody talking like this. So maybe there are, I don't know. I told you I don't read much literature, in fact. There may be, I don't know. But this is a fact. Then I asked you, if languages are to induce such emotions of worry, anxiety, tension, fear, etc., which is the more, if that is the condition, what is the most, what you call, a helpless condition?
So it is registered almost like permanently.
Yeah, permanently, that we have to resolve. Anyway, I asked the question, that question cannot be directly targeted. Yeah, that's a good point, Vinay. What I wanted to say is that forget about somebody else's language inducing emotional turmoil inside you. Much more ridiculous is the ongoing languages within our own consciousness, inducing emotions of worry, anxiety, tension, etc., etc. That person, let us say one person makes one dialogue and he goes away and he forgot it. Now I carry it in the mind and I think and more and expand and develop and evolve and connect with many other things, and I feel the agony and the tragedy. So the consequences of language are, I would say, almost 99% within ourselves. Only 1% inspiration by the other person. 99% is our contribution. And we have all justification. He was my friend, or he is my husband, or he is my wife, or he is my this, that, he is my boss, he told me like this, oh, ho, ho, ho. I have seen just a seventh standard girl sitting at home and crying the whole night because the teacher scolded. All right, what was the scolding? I don't remember this anyway. Some very silly comment only. Then I asked, no, she scolded in front of all the others. So, act of scolding, then the situation of other people around. In fact, that situation of other people around only made it so serious. That's why in between we talked about situations in the master cook, which induced emotions. That's why in the normal current parlance we talk, what you call we appreciate in public and criticize in private. That's very important. But at the same time, there is another point. Because unless the mind is able to share its power of intentionality, human being cannot trigger the will to act. Get the point? Because mind is again the driver of every action by working on the will. That's what we talk about an inspiring speech. The mind has to be inspired. We can see by great speeches of great leaders, the entire audience become so enthralled and so captured and captivated. They come into frenzy. All this you think about. I have been thinking about it for some 3 years. I don't get any answer. You continue to think about it. Find some explanations so that you can help other people. You cannot escape. Already, like Vinay pointed out, already the language, emotion, linkages are created and established and reinforced. But of course, I escaped with a lot of effort. It took about 2-3 years for me to get out of that correlation of language and emotions. Of course, I have gotten out of it 100%. Not only out of language, out of situations also. That's why when that other girl, the daughter of the first companion came here, I was so cool. So neither situations nor languages can get remote control of my emotions. That time I saw, but I was very sensitive. During my college days, till maybe about the age of 35 or so, extremely sensitive. I have seen that when I interviewed a lot of creative writers, they are all extremely sensitive. Out of that creative sensitivity only, they could write poems and stories and lyrics and things like that. But
It's
maintaining
2015.
sensitivity to the beautiful language, to the great language, how can you change the gears to put the neutral gear when some nonsense language comes to us? No, that is the challenge. That selective sensitivity. Even for that also, I took about 1 or 2 years. Because sensitivity is sensitivity is sensitivity. So it will be sensitive to wonderful dialogues as well as to cheap violent dialogues also equally. But one thing I am telling you, I am the example, you can definitely detach from violent dialogues, no doubt about that. Cool. my efforts of locating that interface where language is converted into autonomic responses, so called scientifically, or emotional response, that effort alone has provided me that control. I was not trying to get detached. This effort naturally led to that consequence of so-called detachment from intruding, intimidating, insulting, violent languages of other people. And actions of other people, the expressions of other people included. Still, there could be points. For example, you do a wonderful job, okay? And nobody around comes and tells you that it was good. So never have any expectations either. Because we have been trained to receive that comment of, yeah, good, maybe. Because when you did something wonderful, your father appreciated you, your mother appreciated you, your teacher appreciated you, your friend appreciated you, or husband appreciated you, or somebody appreciated you. So like Vinay said, we may get into the trap of expecting appreciation and recognition for something we do good also. We have to get out of that also. Of course, that my father trained me to get out of that in a much earlier age, because I used to be participating in music and other theater competition and all that. And most of the time, of course, I never got any prize or anything. So he had trained me to be not expecting anything out of such things. You just do what you wanted to do, that's all. But every one of you also should be just training your mind to be detached, to be unaffected by the turbulences of somebody else's stupid dialogues. Okay. It could be the very wife, it could be the very son and daughter. I remember, I remember till 4, 5, 6 years back, I was in Mumbai doing a training program for that Hexawa Technologies, Vinay. And it was a residential program. We were in a so-called hotel. One senior manager, sorry, he was the vice president of a computer company, and we were talking till 2 o'clock in the night in my room. Of course, he and we had some drinks. Of course, he was a little more drunk, and at 2 o'clock he narrated his whole incident. First it was all intellectual dialogue. Languages were all connected with intellect. Then after some time, it gradually shifted to languages that connect mind. Then he talked about his family life, and the only one thing he wanted to talk is that he was telling me that I am actually not, I was not in a mood to be in the program. That was the second day, the last day of the program. Because just before our coming here early morning, the previous night, 2 o'clock, my daughter, Mumbai, okay, my daughter, just doing her final degree. She came around 1:30 at home. And I opened the door. Her mother already slept. I was waiting with a lot of tension. She does that every day, most of the day. But that day I had told her that tomorrow I am going and I will be back only after 2 days. So come early, something like that. And when he asked, she said, "You mind your business." And he cried, recollecting that after 2 days, he cried. Crying meaning what crying? Not just tears coming out of the eyes, sobbing. He could not manage it, even the memory of that. She said what? At that time I told him this also. What did she say? You mind your business. Then he said, her expression was, expression, forget about that. That expression got meaningful because of the language. It is the two-way. Expression gets meaningful by the language, and the language becomes meaningful by expression also. How can she tell me this? That was his question. What, how? He told it, that's all. What, how? Do you want to get a theory for that? So that you are happy? Yeah, yes, Anu. What was the point?
Sir, I had doubt. Actually, how do we train ourselves to be not affected by language? How do we actually do the training?
That is what I told in between, Anu.
Yes, I heard your example. Heard you
Yeah, no, I didn't say an example. I said all my efforts, I was also sensitive. I have cried publicly on the stage, in the classroom. In the Union Christian College classroom of BS Psychology, in front of all the students, I have cried. I was that much sensitive. But such a person, me, I am completely in control of my sensitivity. But I did not do anything for that. That I said some time back, I know. What I tried was, my intention was not to achieve that. But in my process of every day trying to locate, actually physically locate, because body is the physically locate which part of the brain, which part of the spinal cord, which part of the autonomic nervous system. Is it at the throat level? Is it at the heart area where the language is converted into emotion? I just did this search, Anuradha. As a result, I think so. I am absolutely unaffected by violent languages, intimidating, insulting, injurious languages for the last 10, 15 years that I realized. So, for that is another thing, In order to change a system, you don't have to work on the system. You work on the peripheries of the system. It will get gradually. Like Vinay said the other day of changing the decision of marriage of somebody without telling straight. You work on something else and it will have this consequence. So with that purposely, I told you also, just like that, try to look at, because there is an ongoing, when you are about to sleep, there is an ongoing thought process. So when you lie down peacefully in your bed, close your eyes, you will realize that there's a running thought, okay? In language. What is thought? Nothing but flow of language. And try to locate what is that language, where that language is generated. Definitely language part is triggered at the throat chakra or the throat level. That I am very clear. That I have identified. That's why mantras are to be japified, chanting. Mantra should be chanted. By the chanting of mantras are certain unique sound structures. So when you chant that sound structures, it will work back, reverse effect into the cerebral cortex, and you will have many, many consequences depending upon the kind and type of mantra. From that, I got the clue that this translation of some impulses into words, into language, happens, it is at the throat region. You can even apply a pressure on the throat, the language flow will be controlled. Then, to answer to Anu's question, I have discovered another technique, which that is, especially when there's what you call lingering thought of disturbance, you change the syntax of the internal language. Changing the syntax meaning the structure of words and sentences. For example, I am going to talk to you now, changing the syntax. Okay, listen carefully. Sleeping you are when think try to words change sentence of a. Can you say what I said? You can said say you when try change words location thoughts ongoing your in mind connection, the language, mind, the of sentences, words, and affected, be, will. Got any idea?
When we change this language and syntax of sentences, the thoughts of the mind will be affected.
Yeah,
Something along that line.
that's what I said. Yeah. So to note easy, talk that like you
It's not
say,
easy to talk like that.
you say cat, said I what?
Can you say what I said?
Yeah, exactly. Like this trying advantage has change also processes the of mind your.
Trying like this can kind of influence your
Can be advantages.
changing the, I mean, advantage of changing your mind.
Of course, yeah. Good. Course of good.
Of course, good.
Of course, good.
Only this note found how I tranquilizes it, mind the
Not
I
only
have
that,
found
This is
that
not
this
this is not the
tranquilizes
only
the
thing
mind.
to
you
tranquilize.
can add your own words in deciphering it.
yeah.
If you
I
get
have
the
found
message,
this tranquilizes the mind.
course of request I now you to tell, not do others this about.
I
It is
request you
not
not
to
to
tell
tell others
others about.
about this.
It because A is technique wonderful.
Because it's a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Master, if I can make a point, I think being in this class itself has enabled me to isolate and insulate myself from injurious language.
Yeah,
And I've experienced a few
that
instances
I
of
know very
those.
good. You have done it in a masterly level.
Yeah, I had a very recent incident
Yeah.
where my father's nephew was mentioning to me. He said to me that if I don't do all the rituals for my father's 11th day, all misfortune is going to befall me. He warned me with an example of a family where they were ruined because they didn't do the 11th day rituals. And he said it in front of my relatives. So I just coolly heard it. And then in the end, he asked me, what arrangements should I make when you come for it? I said, nothing. I'm not doing any.
Course of wonderful. Achieved you have all the great of the mind level.
Thank you.
Doubt